Welcome to MCTV Sports. My name is Roman Caffini alongside Billy Floyd. This is the second episode of Halftime on the Hudson. Let's start the show off with some hot takes.
It's finally time to give credit where it's due. After 5 All-Star seasons, it's Jose Altuve's year to bring home the American League MVP award. Altuve surpassed 200 hits for the 4th straight season while capturing his 3rd batting title in 4 years, hitting .346. The Astros' second baseman led the American League with 8.4 wins above replacement while being the most consistent player throughout the entire 2017 campaign. In each individual month, Altuve hit over 300 with an OPS never dipping below 865. He also ranked 3rd in the AL with 32 stolen bases. Despite Judge's prolific power numbers, he was far less consistent than Altuve. In July and August, he hit an atrocious .230 and .185. Judge also led the MLB with 208 strikeouts, while Altuve was only sent down on strikes 84 times this season. Altuve's on-base percentage was also .410, which was the best of his career. When Ichiro won the MVP in 2001, his was .381. Judge posted an on-base percentage of .422 because he accumulated 127 walks, which is hardly a testament to his plate discipline when you factor in the 200-plus strikeouts. A .485 July batting average, 24 home runs, being the best player on the entire league's best offensive team, all while standing at 5'6", you can't even hit that good in a video game.
Fred Lynn and Ichiro Suzuki are the only players in MLB history to win both Rookie of the Year and MVP awards in the same season, and Aaron Judge will be next on that list. While the other MVP candidate, Jose Altuve, had a fantastic season with 24 home runs, 32 stolen bases, and a .342 batting average, Judge put up numbers that no fan can overlook. He homered 51 times, which led the American League, as well as set the all-time record for a rookie. Judge will be the first rookie in history to lead his league in homers, runs, and walks. He also joins a special list of players aged 25 or younger with at least 125 runs and 125 walks. Him, Ted Williams, and Babe Ruth. No offense to the good people of Houston, but the Astros were easily favored to win the NL West since the beginning. Not only did they add reliable veterans such as Brian McCann and Carlos Beltran, they also have a solid pitching staff and an impressive lineup. While the Astros have topped the worst division in baseball, Aaron Judge has led the Yankees to a season no one could have seen coming. Expect Judge to be named the American League MVP come November.
Prior to Sunday's matchup between the Raiders and the Broncos in Denver, Marshawn Lynch protested the national anthem by sitting, just like he's been doing since the start of the preseason. For some reason, unlike the previous Beast Mode protests, 4 members of the team's staff stood around Lynch as he sat on the bench. The tightly compacted group of Raider employees made it seem like they were attempting to hide him so no one could see. Did the team fear for his safety? Did someone make a threat against him? Many questions have been revolving this action, but I think it's clear that the league is feeling financial pressure to stop these protests. NFL owners don't want any interference with the league's annual $14 billion in revenue, and a loss of viewership will directly affect that. It has also been questioned whose idea was to hide him. Lynch's non-existent filter and mentality of playing by his own rules definitely factored into this decision. I think it was Al Davis, personally, the owner of the team. He conducted the shielding of Marshawn Lynch in hopes that the fans don't want to see their most lovable player doing things that the most of the country doesn't want to see.
With a summer of blockbuster moves in the NBA, the Carmelo Anthony trade might be the most impactful one. With the Thunder also acquiring superstar Paul George, they now have a trio that includes Melo, George, and reigning MVP Russell Westbrook. Last year, Westbrook was tasked with carrying a Thunder team consisting of nothing but role players. In the process, he was able to capture the 6th seed in the loaded Western Conference while averaging a triple-double, only the second player in history to do so. His averages consisted of godlike numbers with 31 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists per game. If Westbrook is able to do this with no backup, just imagine what he can do with 2 All-Stars added to the roster. Anthony put up 22 points per game, and George put up 24. The two will be able to take a huge load off of Westbrook's shoulders while still allowing him to lead the Thunder. An injury-plagued Spurs team is up in the air, and Houston, with the addition of Chris Paul, is the only true threat. Expect the Thunder to be matched up against the Warriors in this year's Western Conference Finals come May, after defeating Houston in the second round.
I just can't see Golden State losing to any of those teams. No matter who's in the finals, who's not in the conference, I think it's always going to be
Listen,
Golden State.
I'm hyped about the Thunder, but I think once it comes to the Western Finals and it's those two teams matched up, I think Golden State is better than they were last year, even though that's hard to say is even possible with how good they are. I think they made great additions in the offseason that really got overlooked. They added Nick Young. JaVale McGee got better, like we said last show. And I don't think anyone's beating them. I don't think when Cleveland makes it to the finals, they're going to beat them or anything like that. So.
And we'll get into plenty more basketball talk as the halftime on the Hudson progresses week in and week out. We're going to take a quick break, but stay tuned for when we come back. We'll be discussing whether or not the NFL is handling their anthem protest properly or not. You won't want to miss this.
Welcome back. This past week, Trump shared his thoughts on NFL players protesting the national anthem, initially stating at a rally in Alabama, quote, "Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, 'Get that son of a bitch off the field right now, he's fired.'" Since then, we've seen a resurgence from players and managers across the league to take a stand. So, Billy, to ask you, what are your thoughts on what Trump said and what the owners and the managers are doing?
I just can't believe that the words of that such came from a president. If you look at Barack Obama, George Bush, you look at them and you just think, who would ever say that? I mean, this guy's supposed to be the leader and the guy that we look up to in our country. And now you see teams all over the league like the Seahawks, the Steelers, and now the Cowboys, who are taking a stand, doing their own form of protesting as a team to show unity. So we saw 2 Mondays ago in Arizona when the Cowboys were playing the Cardinals. You saw Jerry Jones and the rest of the Cowboys take a stand. They took a knee prior to the national anthem. They didn't knee for the anthem, but they all linked arms together as a unit, and they kneed, stood up, and then the anthem proceeded and went along. But what are your thoughts from a team standpoint and what Jerry Jones has done for the Cowboys and how they went about this protest?
Right, so we're going to get into it later, but I think Eric Reed made a great comment on this issue. He's saying that it's all about unity. So the fact that the Cowboys did it in unity, the fact that Jerry Jones was on board with them, which is huge because let's remember, the Cowboys are America's team, right? In football, Cowboys are America's team, and that really goes to show how many people are on with this if the Cowboys are doing it and still supporting the cause. I think it's great to have unity. I think that what Jerry Jones did really shows a strong, perspective on this issue. And I think overall, it's good for the league, and it's good that Jerry Jones took that knee along with the team. So aside from Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, another issue that we've had with this is Alejandro Villanueva. So I guess we'll just give a quick background on it. Villanueva, apparently, he served in Afghanistan 3 different times, and he wanted to go out, and he wanted to get ahead of Roethlisberger, and he wanted to get a better look at the flag just because he has so much pride for his country in serving time. And when he got out there, he got caught out there. He was the only one standing there. The Steelers were standing in the back. He was seen alone, and it really just looked like he was separated from his team, and it caused this huge thing. So what do you think? Was it true, or is it not? What happened?
I think he just went out there because he felt obligated to. I mean,
Right.
serving 3 different tours in Afghanistan is a crazy feat, and now he's a 3-time NFL player, and he's exceeding well. But now the camera is in his face for all the wrong reasons. He never signed up or tried to play football because he thought he'd be the main talk of all this political madness going on here. We look at Mike Tomlin, who is a very respectable, winning, great coach, who has a great mindset, a players-first coach. And he wanted to do this by having players stay in the locker room just to not make a political statement. They weren't trying to protest. They just didn't want to be portrayed out there.
Right.
Unfortunately, Villanueva, who stepped outside, is now the main focal point of discussion. Everyone's talking about him, using him for debates. He never wanted any of this spotlight. He was just trying to honor his country, just like most of America is. And now it's sad to see viewership being lost because people don't want to see people kneeing. We talked about Marshawn Lynch being covered up, obviously, because owners, teams, they don't want these faces of the franchise and faces of the NFL to be portrayed as disrespecting the country, disrespecting the president, and everything this great country has to offer, and it's a shame.
Right, it is a shame. I think he said that he still wants to stand with the rest of his team for the flag this time. Obviously not alone. That's not what he wants to do again. But I think it really got blown out of proportion as a whole. I think, like you said, I think he wanted to, make a stance with this, and it ended up blowing into this huge thing that he didn't want. He didn't want a boycott, he said, and he really didn't want all this attention. And that's what ended up happening. And now he's kind of taking the hit for it, and he's trying to cover himself with saying that he got stuck out there and whatnot. But I think it's definitely an interesting issue. But we'll see next week with the Steelers. He's going to be standing with them.
Yep.
So I think this will all die down soon enough. So going on to our last topic, Eric Reid, which this is huge. Basically, do you want to tell them what he was saying?
Yeah, so basically back when Colin Kaepernick started all this, the revolution of taking a knee during the national anthem, he was the safety who was one of the first guys to really go with him. And they took this knee for police brutality and racial inequality. And now everyone's taking a knee to stand up for what President Trump said, and they're kind of protesting everything about him. And Eric Reid went on to say that their first initial protest has nothing to do with these protesting. And they wish that all these people who are protesting with them now for these reasons were with them back when they were protesting for racial inequality, which is the main frame point. And now you see Colin Kaepernick, obviously, you've been hearing from different players that he's in great shape, he's been working out, he's ready to go, but still no team's trying to sign him because of this huge distraction. And now it's finally dying down, so I just can't see him getting himself on the team. But Eric Reid is definitely right, and it's a shame that people weren't with them now, and now everyone's protesting for all the different and wrong reasons.
Right. I think Reid has a point in being upset just because him and Kaepernick were the ones that started this, and now nobody does it with them back in the 2016-2017 season, and now that's all they're doing this season. But it's not for the same cause. It's not for social inequality. It's not for police brutality. It's for Donald Trump and his statements. But, obviously he doesn't flat out say, Eric Reid, whether or not he's on board. I know he kind of avoided that question when it was brought up. But he obviously can't be happy with what's going on. And he said himself in quote, he said, "You're damned if you do it, and you're damned if you don't." And I think that just pretty much sums up the whole taking a knee thing. You do it because you want to make a statement. And then if you don't do it, then you look like you're not with unity with the rest of your team. So, big statement by Eric Reid. So anyway, when we come back, our reporter John Rohr is in the studio to discuss his take on the worst jerseys in NFL history. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. I'm John Rohr. Football fans were left scratching their eyes Sunday afternoon as the Los Angeles Rams took the field in mismatched uniforms that were seemingly picked out by toddlers. Todd Gurley and company were decked out in navy and white helmets while still wearing the navy and gold jerseys from their time in St. Louis. Due to the NFL's policy on jersey alterations, we could be looking at this hideous combination until 2019. This got us thinking, and we here at MCTV decided to throw together a list of the worst uniforms in league history. In the fifth spot, we have the Seattle Seahawks, whose green alternate uniforms would make a perfect addition to anyone's highlighter collection. Last seen in December 2016, these Christmas trees could make a return in Week 10, when the Seahawks take on the Cardinals on Thursday Night Football. Coming in at number 4, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, whose all-gold color rush uniforms look more like an advertisement for French's yellow mustard than anything that should be remotely near a football field. Fortunately for our eyes, the Jaguars don't have any primetime games this season, so we won't be seeing them anytime soon. In third, we have my favorite team, the Cleveland Browns, whose uniforms, much like the team, have been terrible since they rejoined the league in 1999. In particular, these orange jerseys were bad enough to end Johnny Manziel's career and scare off any half-decent quarterback for the next several decades to come. In the number 2 spot, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, whose creamsicle-like uniforms weren't only bad to look at, but the team lost their first 26 games in these monstrosities. These uniforms may be on for good now due to a new rule banning alternate helmets. And taking the top spot, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, whose striped uniforms not only scared off opponents, but also pollinated crops throughout the Northeast and Midwest. Fortunately, or unfortunately for farmers out there, these bees returned to their hives permanently following the 2016 season. That's all from me. Now back to Roman and Billy.
Thanks, John. Thursday Night Football brought to you by Jim Nantz and everyone's new favorite, Tony Romo. A Patriots team that is somehow not leading the AFC East will be tested as they travel to Tampa Bay to face an amped-up Bucs team. After a game-winning Panthers field goal in Foxborough last Sunday, the defending champs look to bounce back against Jameis Winston, who torched the Giants for 3 touchdowns in Week 4 as they went on to win 25-23. Nick Folk played hero in that one with a walk-off field goal of his own. The Patriots and Bucs sit at 32nd and 30th in yards allowed per game, so expect the gunslinging quarterbacks to be producing a lot of offense in what should be a very high-scoring affair. Now, obviously, a lot of touchdowns will be scored, but who do you think will score more touchdowns by the end of the game?
Well, I think the main thing here is the Patriots defense. Tom Brady's going to come out slinging. He's going to throw. He leads quarterbacks in passing touchdowns and passing yards. It's just all about the defense keeping up. Patriots took an L last week. Don't think they're taking 2 in a row, so I'm taking the Patriots for this game.
I'm feeling the Bucs. I mean, I watched that game as a Giants fan. I just saw Jameis Winston torch us apart. And now they got Doug Martin back, who's fresh off a suspension. He's good when he plays. Expect O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate to go off because the Patriots let up everything to the tight ends. And then Mike Evans on the offensive side of the receiver slot. Right. I'm going to see Jameis Winston have a field day against that Patriots D.
Definitely. Well, we'll see definitely. It's going to be a good matchup. The road to Russia should have been easy for the U.S. men's national team, but yet here they are, currently sitting 4th in the hexagonal, with the real possibility of missing out on the World Cup for the first time since 1984. This Friday, the men's team gets set to face Panama, a squad that currently finds themselves 1 spot ahead of the Yanks in the standings. In past years, perhaps Panama would have been overlooked as an easy opponent. However, Arena has been unable to find a lineup that has meshed well with each other over the past 4 qualifying matches. Between sloppy center back play by Omar Gonzalez and Jeff Cameron, a lack of creativity in the middle of the pitch between Michael Bradley and Kellen Acosta, and wonder boy Christian Pulisic having to learn how to play with foreign powers, nipping at his heels every time he touches the ball, the men's team have been nothing but abysmal as of late. Yet with nowhere else to turn, fans have put their faith in a squad who has only picked up 3 points in their last 4 matches. Otherwise, it would be a long summer for soccer fans, and the growth of the sport will take a major hit here in the United States. So the question really comes down to this. Do you believe that they will win?
I mean, I feel like every time I watch U.S. soccer, they lose. So I'm going to say probably no. I mean, I feel like soccer is just dominated by all these other foreign countries. I mean, you got Spain, Germany, Brazil, Argentina, who just dominate. And there's so many people in this country, like billions. I don't know the total, but billions. And you can't form a soccer team that can make the World Cup. I feel like there's no excuse, and it's atrocious for soccer.
Right. I'm not a big soccer guy, but all I know is look for Altidore to keep scoring goals for Toronto. I saw highlights of him, and he's just been on absolute fire, so it'll definitely be a good game. So that'll do it for this episode of Halftime on the Hudson. Catch us on the 18th. We'll be back to cover everything you need to know about your favorite sports teams. I'm Roman Caffini alongside Billy Floyd. See you later.